Question 2.4 was as follows. Bob decided to see how light intensity affects flower buds opening in a particular species of plant known as wasonias. Okay, he built 4 outside enclosures for the wasonia. The first one was covered with 1 layer of green shade cloth. The second one was covered with 2 layers. The third one with 3 layers, and the fourth one with 4 layers. Wasonia flowers in spring to early summer, so Bob did his experiment in October with flowers that he bought from the nursery. In each enclosure, Bob put 5 identical pots of wasonia. Each pot had a single wasonia plant, which was about 20 centimeters high and had no open flowers. Each enclosure was placed on his lawn in full sun. At the end of each week, he counted the total number of flowers open in each enclosure and recorded his results. His results are shown in the table below. Okay, so let's go to the table below. This is the table. So the number of flower buds opening on wasonia plants in 4 different enclosures over 4 weeks in October. So you can see enclosure number. So we have got 1, 25% shade, 2, 50% shade, 3, 75% shade, 4, 100% shade. Okay, so I've got week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So how do you read this table? Okay, how can you get the information from this table? So in week 1, a plant that was covered with 25% shade had 4 flowers. The one that was covered with 50% shade had 2, and the one which was covered with 75% had 0, and the one which was covered with 100% had 0. Okay, now when you come to week 2, you see that the one which with the 25% had 7 flowers or 7 openings of the buds, and then this one had the one which had 50% had 5, the one which had 75 had 3, and the one which had 400%, which is number 4, had 0. Okay, so you can see that this plant which had 100% shade, it only managed to have 3 buds opening. In week 4, only 3 opened, but in week 1, 2, 3, none of the buds opened. Okay, only 3 opened in here. As well as when you look at the one which had 70%, it had only 4 buds opening in week 3 and 7 in week 4. Then the one which had 50% had 9 buds which opened in week 2 and 15 in week 4. 9 in week 3 and 15 in week 4. So the one which had 25% had 17 buds opened and in week 3 and 29 in week 4. So that's what you need to also understand. Okay, once you have understood this, then we can go to the actual question. Okay, so the first question, which is 2.31. Okay, so the question is, what is the A dependent variable? What is A dependent variable? Okay, which has got 1 mark. So dependent variable, that is the number of wasonia flowers that opened. That is dependent variable, the number of wasonia flowers that opened. Okay, question 2.3.1 B is as follows. Independent variable. What is the independent variable? Okay, so the independent variable is light intensity. Light intensity. Light intensity is the independent variable. Okay, we come to question 2.3.2. Okay, the question is, name one thing that Bob could do to ensure the validity of this experiment. One thing Bob can do to make sure to ensure that this experiment is valid. So one thing Bob can do is give the Wasonia the same amount of water. Okay, so he shouldn't deprive any plant with water. You should give the same amount of water to each plant. Okay, or you can also give the same type of soil, or plant the Wasonia plants in the same type of soil, and also you can also put the same amount of soil, and also count the birds at the same time of the day. Okay, here what I'm trying to say is you should count the number of birds. If he's counting in the morning, he should count all the birds, the opening birds in the morning. If he counts the number of birds for different plants in the morning, then he comes and count the other birds from other plants in the evening. That means there will be some changes that will take place. Other birds can open during the course of the day, so you just count all the opening birds at the same time of the day. Okay, we come to question 233. Okay, question 233 is as follows. How could Bob have set up a control for his experiment? How could Bob have set up a control for his experiment? So the answer for this one, how he could have set up the control experiment, he could have set up 5 more pots of Wasonia on the lawn with no shade cloth. Okay, so what he could do is the same number of the same plant, the same amount of soil, everything, and the water is watering the same, but this time he can put these plants at an open place where they are not covered, and those plants, they will act as control because they will have all the things, that all the factors that are needed for the plant. Okay, so you can plant them on the lawn, but without being covered, but having just an opening. Okay, and he does the same thing he's doing to those plants that are in shade. Okay, we come to question 2.34. Calculate the percentage increase in number of open flowers for enclosure 2 from week 2 to week 3. Okay, so basically what we can do is we can just even go back to the table. Okay, we can look at the table, the same table. Okay, so we are told we calculate the percentage increase in number of open flowers for enclosure 2. Okay, for week 2 to week 3. So we consider week 2 and week 3. Okay, so what we need to do is enclosure 2, which is 50% shade. So week 2 we have got 5, and week 3 we have got 9. So percentage increase, we can say 9 minus 5 over 5. Okay, 9 minus 5 over 5. Okay, so when we calculate 9 minus 5 will give us 4. 4 over 5 times 100%. Okay, so then when we say what number can go into 5 and 100, it will be 5 itself. So 5 down is cancelled out. 5 into 100, it will give us 20. Then we say 20 times 4. 20 times 4 will give us 80. So the percentage increase is 80%. From week 2 to week 3, there was an increase of 80%. Okay, so now we come to question number 2.5. What can Bob what can Bob conclude from this result? What can Bob conclude from this result? So Bob can conclude that the lower the light intensity, the fewer flower buds will open. The lower the light intensity, the fewer flower buds will open. Or you can also say the higher the light intensity, the more flower buds will open. So both of these two answers are correct. So basically that's what you can conclude. Okay, so we come to question number 2.36. 2.36, which is draw a bar graph of week 4 of Bobby's results. Okay, week 4. So we go to week 4. So we can draw that. So what we need to do now is we go back to the table, which will help us to draw. So we concentrate on week 4 here, the one I've shown you here. So week 4, the first plant, which has 25%, has 29 flower buds open, and second one had 15. Sorry, had 15. The second one had 15. The third one had 7, and the fourth one had 3. Okay, so now the actual question is we draw the graph. Okay, so what we can do here is the way I'm going to draw the graph. So for first one, I'm going to draw the bar graph here, which will reach up to 29. So I'll put 30 here. Okay, so I'll write these lines in the interval 5, 5. Then I'm going to put this bar close to 30, that is 29. So I'll write it like that. Then this one, the second enclosure was 15, so I'm going to draw the bar chart here on here. Okay, so as you can see, I'm also writing the percentage of the shade. So 25%, I've written 1, 25%, 2, 50% shade, and 3, which is 75% shade, which is 7. I'm going to write it somewhere here. Okay, since it has only 7, and then I'm going to write 75% shade. Then 4, which has got 23, which has 100% shade, it had only 3, so I'm going to draw the bar graph like this. Okay, which is 3 there. Okay, less than 5. As you can see, it is close to half, but it's a bit higher than half. So that is how the chart should be. Okay, so here I'm talking about the enclosure number, and on these sides I'm talking about the number of flower buds open. Okay, so basically this is how you can come up with a graph. Okay, if you have got questions, you can ask in the comment section, but basically this is how you answer this question. Okay.